Gaza at the moment, and the response of various Western powers, including our own government. So one of the things that we will be saying very loudly is that we think Ursula von der Leyen should resign. She has publicly given unconditional support to the State of Israel at exactly the same time that it has publicly declared its intention to commit war crimes. The ethnic cleansing of 1 million Palestinians is, under international law, a war crime. To transfer populations when you are occupying a people is a war crime. And in fact, what Israel is perpetrating now is a second Nakba. In 1948, 750,000 people, Palestinians, were expelled using terrorism and violence by Zionist militia. In just a few days, Israel has used the same tactics of terror and indiscriminate killing to ethnically cleanse 1 million Palestinians. So in front of the eyes of the world, Israel blatantly says we're going to commit war crimes, commits those war crimes, and Ursula von der Leyen gives them unconditional and uncritical support. So we believe she should resign, and resign immediately, and that our government should be associated with making that call. We also think that the Irish government should call immediately for Israel's referral to the International Criminal Court for war crimes. It is something that I think the public should know, that Israel is one of the countries that refuses the jurisdiction of the International Criminal Court. So it claims that it's willing to operate within the confines of international law, but actually refuses the jurisdiction of the International Criminal Court, because essentially Israel believes it can kill Palestinians with impunity and should in no way by anybody be held accountable for those things. But the International Criminal Court has stated that they believe they have the jurisdiction to investigate war crimes in Palestine, and we believe the Irish government should now call for that to happen, and that the resources are put into it. And I would remind people that there was instantaneous calls from our government and European leaders to refer Vladimir Putin to the International Criminal Court for war crimes, quite rightly. So we would expect that same standards will be applied to the state terrorism and war crimes that Israel is committing in front of the eyes of the world. We would also be calling for the government to immediately expel the Israeli ambassador as part of imposing sanctions on Israel for the absolutely barbaric assault on the people of Gaza, for the war crimes, for the ethnic cleansing, and to recognise that the atrocities that Israel is committing are not some sort of act of self-defence over what Hamas did a week ago, but actually are part of an ongoing pattern of murderous assaults, the siege of Gaza, ethnic cleansing, apartheid policies, the seizure of Palestinian land, the annexation of Palestinian territory. Israel has to be held accountable, and we believe that the Irish government should be imposing sanctions itself, breaking off diplomatic and other relations with Israel, and calling on the European Union to do exactly the same thing. Finally, I just want to say that I am receiving multiple calls from Palestinians who are either here living in Ireland and have family who are terrified in Gaza, or just directly people from Gaza who may have Irish connections. And I believe that the Irish government should not only seek to ensure that the 40 Irish citizens who are in Gaza can get out and get support to get out of Gaza, but that anybody who has connections with Ireland, family connections or whatever, that the Irish government would give them every support, give them the visas necessary to escape from the terror that is being posed. I'll just give you one example. I was talking to a woman last night who is studying here in University of Limerick. She's doing a PhD. Her children are here. but her husband was refused a visa to come to this country to see his family, who we haven't seen for a few years. But his apartment block was levelled by Israel in Gaza City over the last few days. He was dug out from under the rubble, miraculously survived, but he is wandering Gaza alone with nowhere to live, and is looking for the Irish government to give him a visa to get reunited with his family and to get out of the horrific situation. And just to say, the woman in question is a UNICEF staff member. She has no political affiliations. She's contributing to Irish society, and her husband has miraculously survived, but they've lost everything. Their home, their business, everything gone. And this is just one little glimpse at the horror that people are suffering, and I think the Irish government should be doing everything to help people get out of that situation and give them refuge here.
Yeah, firstly, obviously, I think the vast majority of people in this country are looking in absolute horror at what is happening in Gaza, the slaughter of Palestinian people by the most advanced US weaponry, bombs raining down. We know over 3,000 Palestinians have now been killed in the last week, as over 1,000 children have been killed. I visited Gaza maybe 10 years ago. I saw just how densely packed, how poor Gaza is, and that the reality is that any of these bombs being rained down, they are targeting civilians, they are hitting civilians. It is civilians who are paying the price. And of course people are looking on in horror because they know not only is this horror taking place now, but that Israel is threatening and I think planning to unleash an even worse horror in terms of a ground invasion that potentially can cost the lives of tens of thousands of ordinary Palestinians in what is very clearly an act of genocide, an act of ethnic cleansing, an act to drive the Palestinians out of Gaza. So I want to appeal to people in Ireland and around the world to come onto the streets this Saturday to demand a stop to the slaughter, a stop to the bombing, no to a ground invasion by Israel. I think millions of people will be on the streets this Saturday. We have to raise our voices as loud as possible to put pressure on our own governments, to put pressure on the Israeli state to stop. The protest in Ireland starts at 1 o'clock at the Parnell Square this Saturday. In relation to the Irish government, obviously their statements in comparison to the statements of Ursula von der Leyen or the US government or whatever look much more even-handed, much more balanced, much more reasonable. But they still aren't telling the truth. I mean, the Irish government is using weasel words about the need that Israel, when exercising its right to self-defence, needs to exercise that within the framework of international law, needs not to commit war crimes. And we have to demand that the Irish government tells the truth. The Israeli state is currently committing those war crimes. The Israeli state is currently not operating within the framework of international law. The Israeli state is currently engaged in war crimes, in breaches of the Geneva Convention, in targeting of civilians. Like, what they are currently doing is horrendous. And the Irish state, instead of hiding behind kind of broad generalities, needs to come out and state the truth about what is happening. Briefly, I think Michael D. Higgins is absolutely correct in what he has said about Ursula von der Leyen. I think morally, her actions are